I chose my coworker over my marriage. Now I'm wondering why he won't let me back in. That, quite literally, is my life right now. And I honestly can't believe I'm in this situation. I'm Olivia. I'm 32 years old, and I never, ever thought I'd be that woman. You know the one. The one who detonates her own life for a fleeting fantasy, leaving nothing but smoke and rubble behind. But here I am, standing in the wreckage. Owen and I were together for 5 years. 5 whole, solid years of my life that I thought were good. Great, even. Until they just weren't. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when the color started to drain from our world. Maybe it was when he made partner at the firm last year. Suddenly, the man who used to race home was working late 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. Our dinners shifted from shared stories to silent meals eaten while he scrolled through market reports on his phone. The conversations died first. They withered from discussions about our dreams and our fears into a dry, lifeless rotation of logistics. The mortgage, the car insurance, and his daughter, Lily. Her school schedule, her dentist appointments, her constant 9-year-old needs. Lily is a good kid, I guess. I tried with her. I really, truly did. But stepping into the role of a mother, when you're not one, is like trying to wear shoes that are 2 sizes too small. You can force your foot in, but it pinches with every single step, especially when her actual mom was still very much in the picture, showing up every other weekend to undo any progress I'd made, armed with sugary snacks and a complete disregard for bedtimes. Every time Lily would return home and whine, "But my mom lets me," I wanted to scream. I wanted to scream that I wasn't her mom, and I was tired of trying to be. Then Blake started at our marketing agency. He transferred from the Chicago office, bringing with him a gust of big city confidence that felt like a storm front in our quiet Denver firm. From day one, there was this current, an electrical hum in the air between us. The way he looked at me during my presentation in his first week, Owen hadn't looked at me like that in years. Like I was the only person in the room. Like what I was saying was the most fascinating thing he'd ever heard. He actually listened. When I talked about my frustrating client or a stupid office drama, he didn't just nod while his eyes glazed over. He'd ask questions. He'd laugh at the right moments. And he noticed things. "New haircut, Olivia? It looks incredible. Is that a new dress? That color is perfect on you." I had stopped buying new dresses. I had stopped trying. Because Owen had stopped noticing long ago. It was innocent at first. Or at least, that's the lie I told myself. We were just work friends. Grabbing coffee during our breaks, texting about a project deadline. Then the texts started getting later. I'd be on the couch, half watching some historical documentary Owen had put on, and my phone would light up, a funny meme from Blake. An inside joke from our meeting. I'd find myself smiling at the screen, a secret, thrilling warmth spreading through my chest. That should have been the first warning sign. Hiding my phone, angling the screen away from Owen, but I told myself it was harmless. Just a friend. The office holiday party changed everything. Owen couldn't go. Lily had her winter recital that night, and he was, as always, the devoted dad. "You should still go. Have fun," he'd said, giving me a quick, passionless peck on the cheek before he left. So I went. Blake and I ended up in a corner, talking for hours. The loud music, the chatter of our colleagues, it all faded into a dull buzz. He made me feel witty and beautiful and alive. By the time the party wound down, we were the last ones there, besides the cleaning crew. In the cold, empty parking lot, under the orange glow of a single street lamp, he kissed me. I should have pushed him away. I should have slapped him. I should have done 1,000 different things. Instead, I kissed him back. Hard. It was a kiss full of everything I had been missing. A kiss that felt like coming up for air after being underwater for too long. After that night, I was ruined. I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every moment with Owen became a comparison. Owen with his predictable dad jokes and his sensible sweaters. Owen, who would fall asleep on the couch by 9:30, his mouth slightly open. Then there was Blake. Exciting, spontaneous Blake. Blake who made me feel like the most desired woman on the planet. The women at work were so jealous. I could feel their eyes on us when Blake and I would head out for lunch, just the 2 of us. Especially Megan from accounting. She'd been trying to get his attention for weeks. Basic. She couldn't handle that a guy like Blake would choose me over her. The lies started small. A fake girls' night. An excuse to work late on a project. They came so easily it should have scared me. But I wasn't scared. I was high on the feeling of being wanted again. Owen barely questioned my suddenly busy schedule. He was too wrapped up in work, too focused on Lily. He didn't notice the storm that was brewing right under his own roof. Then, one evening, lying in Blake's bed, he asked the question that sealed my fate. "Why are we sneaking around like this?" he whispered, his fingers tracing patterns on my back. "You're not happy with him. Just leave." It seemed so simple when he said it, so logical. Why was I staying in a marriage that had lost its spark? I deserved happiness. I deserved passion. I deserved Blake. I waited until Lily was at her mom's for the weekend. I sat Owen down in our living room, the same room where he'd proposed to me 4 years earlier. "I want out," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I didn't mention Blake. I'm not completely heartless. I gave him a watered-down, cliché speech about not being happy, about needing to find myself. He looked like I had physically struck him. His face, usually so calm and composed, crumpled. "What did I do wrong?" he kept asking. "Tell me what I can fix, Liv. We can fix this." But the truth was, I was already gone. My mind was already in Blake's apartment, planning a future that didn't include beige walls and parent-teacher conferences. "Is there someone else?" Owen finally asked, his voice breaking on the last word. I looked him straight in the eyes. "No," I lied. "This is about me, not you." I packed a suitcase that night. When I showed up at Blake's downtown loft with my luggage, he seemed surprised. Like he hadn't actually expected me to go through with it. But he recovered quickly, a wide grin spreading across his face. He helped me carry my bags inside, and we celebrated my newfound freedom with expensive wine and the kind of intoxicating attention Owen hadn't given me in years. The first few weeks were a blur of pure bliss. No more planning dinners around a 9-year-old's picky palate, no more quiet, boring evenings. No more pretending to care about his colleagues' dull stories at neighborhood cookouts. It was just me and Blake, free. "We should take a trip this weekend," Blake suggested one Friday morning as we were getting ready for work. "Just drive up to the mountains. Find a hotel. Drink too much wine." That was something Owen would never do. A spontaneous getaway wasn't possible with his rigid routine and his fatherly responsibilities. We booked a room for that very night, called in sick to work, and threw some clothes in a bag. The drive up into the Rockies, with the windows down and music blasting, felt like a scene from the life I was always meant to have. The hotel was a charming, rustic lodge overlooking a valley. We barely left the room all weekend. It was intoxicating, being with someone who wanted me so intensely. "This is what you've been missing," Blake whispered to me that night, and I believed him with every fiber of my being. Back at work, hiding our relationship was a thrilling game. Secret smiles across the conference table, accidentally brushing hands in the break room, sneaking into the supply closet for a quick, breathless kiss when no one was looking. I saw Megan from accounting give me a death stare when Blake brought me coffee one morning. Too bad for her. He was mine now. Owen kept texting, but the messages had changed. The initial, frantic pleas for me to come back had stopped. Now, they were practical. Annoyingly practical. Questions about bills, about when I was going to get the rest of my things, about what he should tell Lily. I took my time responding. I'll admit, a small, dark part of me enjoyed making him wait, making him feel a fraction of the uncertainty I had felt for the last year of our marriage. One night, Blake saw me staring at a text from Owen about Lily's upcoming soccer game. "Do you miss her?" he asked, his tone unreadable. "The kid, I mean." "Sometimes," I admitted quietly. "But it's not like she's really my daughter." The truth was, I did miss her sometimes. Her goofy bedtime stories and the way she'd curl up next to me on the couch during movie nights. But admitting that felt like admitting I'd made a mistake, so I pushed the feeling down. I went to my phone's contacts. I found Owen's name, his picture smiling back at me, a photo I had taken on our last vacation. I held my thumb over the delete button for a second, then pressed it firmly. It was done. A clean break. I was finally uncaged. About a month into living with Blake, the brilliant shine of my new life began to tarnish, just a little, around the edges. It started with small things. He wasn't as tidy as Owen. He'd leave dirty dishes in the sink for days, and his clothes formed a permanent pile on the bathroom floor. He stayed out late with his friends twice in 1 week, not even bothering to send a text. When I gently brought it up, he gave me a look I couldn't quite decipher. "Hey, I didn't realize I was signing up for another wife," he joked, but there was a sharp edge to it that cut me. So I tried to be the cool girlfriend. The opposite of the nagging wife I imagined Owen now described me as to his friends. I laughed off his comment, even though it bothered me. I started cleaning up after him, stocking the fridge with his favorite craft beer, planning my schedule around his. It wasn't that different from what I'd done with Owen. But I told myself, this was different. Because Blake was different. Meanwhile, a new, unsettling development had occurred. Complete and total silence from Owen. He'd stopped texting altogether. I found myself checking my phone constantly, surprised by the quiet. I told myself I was relieved. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? A clean break. But in the quiet moments, when Blake was out or asleep, Owen's silence felt loud. It nagged at me. "You ever think about him?" Blake asked one night, catching me scrolling through old photos on my phone. "No," I lied, closing the app quickly. "I'm exactly where I want to be." End quote. He smiled and pulled me close, but the gesture felt automatic, perfunctory. The intense, laser-like focus he'd had on me in those first weeks was fading. He was on his phone more. He was working late more. Ironically, the very same behaviors that had driven me from my marriage were now creeping into my fantasy. One night, while Blake was out with the guys, I gave in to a desperate curiosity. I logged into a social media account I rarely used and looked up Owen. His profile picture was still the family photo of the three of us from our trip to the lake last summer. Seeing it sent a strange pang through my chest. "This was your choice," I reminded myself, pouring another glass of wine. "You're happier now." Driven by an impulse I couldn't explain, I sent him a message. Just a short one. "Hey. Just wanted to see how Lily is doing. Hope you're both okay." I stared at the screen, waiting for the little bubble with 3 dots to appear. It never did. I checked it an hour later. The message was marked as seen, but there was no reply. The silence was no longer just an absence of communication. It was starting to feel like a presence. A cold, heavy wall he was building between us, brick by brick. And I had just handed him another one. The atmosphere at work grew tense. Blake was becoming more distant, spending more of his time huddled with Megan and her friends. The office gossip mill was churning, and I could feel the whispers and stares following me down the hallway. They were judging me. I knew they were. The relationship with Blake was deteriorating fast. The spontaneity had been replaced by arguments. The passion had cooled into a polite, roommate-like distance. I was living in the fantasy I had chosen, but it was starting to feel like a nightmare. My obsession with Owen's silence grew. It was all I could think about. That single, unanswered message haunted me. His silence wasn't angry or hurt anymore. It was indifferent. And that was so much worse. The company announced the date for this year's holiday party. The 1-year anniversary of the night my old life ended and this one began. I thought, naively, that maybe we could use it to recapture the magic. "About the party," Blake said a few days before, not looking at me. "I think maybe we should arrive separately. You know, people at work are talking. It could get complicated with HR." A cold dread washed over me. It was the first time he'd ever acknowledged that what we did, me leaving my husband for him, might have negative consequences. "Fine," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Whatever you think is best." The night of the party, I spent hours getting ready. I bought a new dress, a stunning emerald green one. I was determined to make him regret his suggestion. I would walk in and remind him of the woman he had risked everything for. I showed up fashionably late, making an entrance. And I saw him immediately. He was across the room, laughing with Megan. He had his hand on the small of her back. It was a casual, easy gesture, but it felt like a punch to my gut. I fled. I didn't even say goodbye. Back at his apartment, shaking with a mixture of rage and heartbreak, I did what I had sworn I wouldn't. I called Owen. Straight to voicemail. "Owen!" I sobbed into the phone, the words tumbling out in a desperate, drunken rush. "Owen, please, I made a mistake, a terrible, terrible mistake. I miss you, I miss our life. Please." Just call me. We need to talk. I hung up, my heart pounding. I waited. Nothing. The next day, my head throbbing, I checked social media again. My breath caught in my throat. He had changed his profile picture. The family photo was gone. It was just him now, standing in front of some mountains. He looked good. Healthier. Happier, even. My panic escalated. I sent a barrage of texts. Owen, please. I'm so sorry for how everything happened. You deserve an explanation. Just let me explain. I know you hate me. But can we please just talk? For 5 minutes? Each message was sent into a black hole, delivered, but never read. Or if they were met with the same crushing, deafening silence. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling of Blake's apartment, a place that had never once felt like home. I finally understood. The silence wasn't a punishment. A punishment implies you still care enough to inflict pain. This was something far colder. It was an erasure. He was simply, quietly, methodically deleting me from his life. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. The final weeks in Blake's apartment were an exercise in mutual avoidance. He started staying out later, or sometimes not coming home at all. I noticed small things: missing a framed photo from his desk, his expensive watch from the nightstand. He was preparing his exit. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't live in this limbo, haunted by the ghost of a man who wouldn't speak to me, and living with the shell of a man who no longer wanted me. I needed to see him. I needed to see Owen. No more texts he could ignore, no more calls he could send to voicemail. I needed to look him in the eye and make him listen. I drove to our house. His house. Now. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I rehearsed what I would say. I would apologize. I would grovel. I would promise to do anything. To be better. I parked across the street, my heart hammering against my ribs. I was just about to get out of the car when the front door opened. A woman I didn't recognize walked out. She was laughing, her head thrown back. Owen followed her, and on his shoulders, holding on for dear life, was Lily. They were all laughing. Lily looked happier than I had seen her in years. Before they all got into his car, Owen leaned over and kissed the woman. It wasn't a frantic, desperate kiss like the ones I'd shared with Blake. It was a soft, certain kiss. A kiss that spoke of shared mornings and a quiet, comfortable love. I sat there, frozen, as they drove away. A perfect family picture, driving off into the afternoon sun. A picture I had cut myself out of. Someone else had taken my place, seamlessly. Someone who made him smile in a way I hadn't in a very long time. The reality hit me like a physical blow. He wasn't ignoring me because he was hurt or angry. He was ignoring me because he had moved on, because I no longer mattered. I drove back to Blake's in a daze. When I walked in, he was sitting on the couch, his expression serious. "We need to talk," he said. I almost laughed at the bitter irony. Here I was, my heart shattered from definitively losing my husband, and now I was about to be dumped by the man I'd left him for. "Megan and I," he started. "Save it," I interrupted, my voice surprisingly steady. "I already know." To his credit, he had the decency to look ashamed. "I never meant for any of this to happen," he mumbled. The exact words I had planned to say to Owen. "I think it's best if you find somewhere else to stay," he continued. "I'll be gone tomorrow," I said. That night, as he slept on the couch, I lay awake in his bed for the last time. I scrolled through the old photos on my phone, the digital graveyard of my former life, birthday parties, vacations, lazy Sunday mornings, ordinary days I had mistaken for a cage. I had thrown it all away for a 3-month fantasy. I was a ghost, haunting a life that was no longer mine. The next day, I packed my things and checked into a cheap, anonymous hotel on the edge of town. The room smelled of stale cigarettes and regret. I had no husband, no home, no boyfriend. I would have to find a new job, too. There was no way I could go back to the office and watch Blake and Megan's love story blossom on the ashes of mine. Out of a desperate, masochistic habit, I opened my laptop and looked up Owen's social media profile one last time. He had posted a new photo. Him, Lily, and the new woman, all bundled up in scarves and hats at some kind of winter festival. They were all beaming. My eyes drifted down to the caption. "New year, new beginnings. And a new family member coming this summer. Couldn't be happier." It took me a moment to process the words. New family member coming this summer. The woman was pregnant. Owen was going to have another child. A child that should have been mine. Could have been mine. If I hadn't been so selfish, so greedy, so profoundly blind. I slammed the laptop shut and finally let myself break. I didn't just cry. I sobbed. Huge, gasping, ugly cries that were ripped from a place deep inside me. I cried for the family I had lost. For the future I had thrown away. For the person I had become. Most of all, I cried because I knew, with a certainty that was as solid and cold as a tombstone, that there was no going back. Owen hadn't just closed the door, he had locked it, bolted it, and built a whole new house somewhere else. In just a few short months, I had managed to systematically destroy everything good in my life. I had chosen fleeting excitement over lasting stability. I had chosen a shallow fantasy over a deep, albeit complicated, reality. And now I had nothing, just an empty hotel room and the crushing, unbearable weight of my own terrible choices. The worst part wasn't losing Owen. It wasn't even seeing him happy with someone else. The worst part was knowing, with absolute clarity, that I had no one to blame but myself. I was the architect of my own ruins. I had done this, all of it. I had walked away from a good man who loved me, who would have worked on our marriage if I had only given him the chance. I had hurt a child who had started to trust me. I had thrown away 5 years of building a life for 3 months of a cheap thrill that proved to be as substantial as smoke. I keep wondering why Owen won't answer my texts, why he won't let me back into the life we built. But I know the answer now. I know it in my bones. He wasn't keeping me out. I had walked out, and while I was busy convincing myself I deserved a passionate masterpiece, he had gone and quietly, diligently, built a life of peace. And his peace was a world where I simply no longer existed.